Bang bang. Double guns. Hey man, we back at it again. Obviously, you see right here we got a guest on the show. Jordan Kane's joining us again. He's been on the pod before. What's going on, Jordan? How you been, man?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me back on.
Then you got anything to say? I know you were weirdly offended when you saw that hat. So
No, it's cool. I mean, look, me and Bill's Mafia had a back and forth.
Yeah.
Josh Allen has shut me up. If we get into it, I'll tell them why I hate them. But for now, peace.
All right.
Respect.
Respect.
Jonathan, how you doing, man? How's that onesie doing? You doing all right over there?
It's a sweater. Man, look, I'm trying to recover because my self-esteem has taken a hit over the weekend. I got Star Lord, or I think it's Star 69 Lord 420. I don't know how that name is supposed to be read, but he's been telling me I'm a fucking loser. I must annoy all my family and friends. I'm a no name.
The hell did you do?
Never has been podcaster.
Podcast.
I commented. I commented on a
Dan Snyder.
A journalist tweeted an article about Snyder and Washington and the NFL not wanting to reveal the results of the investigation. And I read the article and then I just commented hey,
but it's not that they don't want to; they're not allowed to.
No, that Dan Snyder has veto power over what gets released.
Of what they release.
Yeah.
And so I said, that the league itself is a quasi private public entity, but the teams are private with the exception of the Packers. So they don't have to release anything if they don't want to. Granted, we know what happened and the allegations are fucked up, right? It's like 50 women, sexual harassment. I wasn't taking away from that, but I was just pointing out some stuff and this guy just started attacking me. Oh, thanks for pointing out the obvious. I immediately went in for the kill. Thanks for pointing out the obvious. You don't contribute anything, and what a fucked up situation this is. So I was like, you know what? You're right. Thank you for enlightening us and bringing breaking news, quote unquote. This is fucked up. And then he just went in.
It was so funny.
Went in. Oh my goodness. Maybe we'll share it later on. I'll pull it up and we'll go through this.
Oh, dude, it was so funny.
He was giving me vitriol, and I was just responding with concurrence.
Yep.
He was telling me how no one likes me, how I must be a loser, and whatever he was saying. Well, I'll put up the tweets and I would respond with, you know what, you're right. I've let down my parents. You're correct. No one listens to the podcast. Only my mommy and daddy do, and that's if I'm lucky. They'll both listen on separate devices, so we get 2 listeners at a time. I know that unlike you, I'm not letting my family down. Have a great weekend, and then he just went back and forth.
He was so angry. Kindness was not.
Well, why?
Kindness.
Don't even reply like that. Just take a picture of yourself smiling and send it. I promise you, it'll do the trick. Nobody hates that more. When somebody's upset, if they see you smiling, it gets them so much more upset. I'm telling you.
That's why he was so mad.
I'm upset looking at that fucking picture behind you right now. You're right.
That's why he can't. You notice he can't make direct eye contact with Danny when he's talking. He just looks away.
I can't.
Like,
I look off at my other monitor.
Jordan, man, that's a funny question to start it with, right? Before we go into Utah and stuff, like we see that vitriol and stuff and the back and forth on Twitter. Like, how do you handle it? Like, do you respond to it? Do you just laugh?
I used to more. I used to respond to it, and honestly, like, because I was kind of like thrust into having a good sized Twitter following, right? 2,000 followers, and I guess some would call it a platform. I haven't really been comfortable with that word, but because I started the Fours Up podcast with Marsh. You guys know Marsh, right? Ben, I assume you do at least. And Marsh had like 6,000 followers at the time, and I had like 100, right? And it was just kind of coincidence that brought us together. I handled the production and essentially made it easy for him so that we could just hit record, and that's all he had to do, right? Is talk, and then I took care of the rest. And so I was fortunate to end up paired with him because he's really great and has a following. And then it was like overnight I got over 1,000 followers, and then it just like kept growing, right? Yeah. And So it was weird, like going from nothing, no interactions on Twitter ever, to all of a sudden have like haters, right? So I used to respond to it way more. But like probably the last 6 months, 9 months, it just doesn't really faze me anymore. I think I've managed to detach myself emotionally from it way more than I used to. And it's like, I'm just totally averse to any sort of Twitter drama or beef at this point. Like, there's a lot of people on Kane's Twitter that I think are dorks or whatever stronger word you want to use, and
Right.
I keep it to myself because why? Who cares what I think about someone else?
Yeah. What about you, Danny? I know you like to argue and debate and
No, because
shit
the
like
thing
that
is, well, the thing is, you got started with Twitter.
Yeah.
I just got into Twitter using it normally a couple months ago, like last summer or so.
Uh-huh.
Before, I just was big on Instagram. So I got like
Yeah.
a little over 3,000 followers, and people don't interact as much on Instagram. So what I would do is I would post, like a picture with some stats of how bad Josh Allen was. I'd tag Bills Mafia, right? Hashtag Bills Mafia. I throw that grenade, and I just walk away. Because they start replying, but I never replied back. Now that I started using Twitter is a lot more like it's
engaging.
It's like a cesspool. Like people are very mean on Twitter. Like,
and it's
I would have
the platform's more confrontational by nature.
For sure.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, like, it was like I have fun. Like I just throw out like stats because I'm a stats guy. I love stats.
Yeah.
So I put up stats. Like, look, he's gonna be Mr. Trubisky next year, and
Yeah.
and Bills Mafia would get extremely pissed.
Yeah.
And I'd have fun with it. But if I would have done that on Twitter, I think it would have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
And then I don't go back and forth as much as I used to on Instagram. Now that I'm on Twitter,
And he ended up having the most like statistically perfect playoffs of all time. So.
Oh yeah, those 2 games. I just kidding. No, he did. He did. Fuck that
guy. Yeah, everything's perfect minus the Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, I was driving home from Orlando. I got home. I turned on the TV. There's a minute left in the second round, and he's driving on the field on the Chiefs. He scored that touchdown with 13 seconds left, and I'm like, fuck. I wanted to talk shit to Bills Mafia.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I got home right in time to witness him just, cement himself as the next guy. Yeah. Thank God for Patrick Mahomes.
Well, and you missed a touchdown a minute earlier, too. He scored 2 touchdowns after the 2-minute warning. And his defense couldn't do anything. Heartbreaking, man.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking just because, like, you get an all-time QB performance and the rest of the team just completely lets him down. It
just
sucks.
Randomly, before we go on to something else, just curious, because I know that was heartbreaking. What was, like, any sport, not just the Bills, what's the worst sports, Jackson Jeter, the worst sports, like, moment for you, like, out of any of them? Because I know for Ben, he said it was the 0-1 championship, 0-2.
0-2.
Yeah. Oh, that's tough. Well, I guess losing in the ACC championship to Clemson in 2017 was pretty rough.
Really?
Thankfully, it was over quick, right? Like the Canes got down like 3 scores in the first quarter, so it was
that's
a
why I
quick.
didn't think you would go that route, right?
Well, yeah, but I got so hyped. Like, I was in college, so my friends and I, we rented out like the theater for our apartment building, and we ordered a whole bunch of pizza, had a whole bunch of people come, and I was the only one that was like a Canes fan. Actually, everyone else just wanted to watch football, and dude, just dagger. Like 5 minutes in, that game lasted 5 minutes before it was time to turn it off. So that was terrible. Watching the Jazz completely melt down last year against the Clippers was pretty rough because partially because like I could see it coming from a mile away. I think it was after game 4 because we got up 2-0. The Clippers then won the next 2, so it was 2-2. And at that point, I was like, I'm a big basketball guy, X's and O's even. And so I was like, the Clippers have made their adjustments. What they're doing schematically, like the Jazz aren't going to be able to fix this. Unfortunately, even though we were up 2-0,
Right.
like I had lost all faith in this series. And then in game 5, Kawhi Leonard blows out his knee. And like an idiot, I my
You thought you had
spirits go
hope.
all the way back up. I'm like, there
Yeah,
it
of course.
is. Like, we're going to win. We're going to the
Ooh,
Western
that's
Conference
rough.
Finals. And then game 6 happens, and I'm watching it, and it dawns on me is like, no, it doesn't matter. Like Tyronn Lue has outcoached Quinn Snyder so thoroughly that they don't even need their best player to beat us. And
Right.
that
Well, I
game
mean, Paul
was,
George is playing at a pretty high level at that point.
yeah, and I'm not taking anything away from the Clippers. If anything, I'm
Right.
giving him respect that like Ty Lue is that much better of a coach than Quinn Snyder. But I think it was hard that I knew it was over, and then I got all of my hope back and was like just talking as if we had won again, and I should have known better, right? Because like
Not for sure.
watching the way that the Clippers had been attacking the Jazz defense, like I should have known, because you just plug Marcus Morris into the Kawhi Leonard spot, and it was the same thing,
So you
I feel you
lost that
completely. I'm a
series
Nets
twice.
Yeah, we lost that series twice. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's rough. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
hope
at
that
least
kills
for
you,
me
man.
emotionally. I lost that series twice.
That's rough. What about you, John? What's yours? You had like some Florida State bullshit, right?
Why do you have to
Well,
call
he
it
said
bullshit,
something
man?
90s.
Yeah, it was like
No,
1987 or something. Wild shit that
I
saw on
no
YouTube or
longer.
something.
Hey, you and I are the same age, by the way. So
I know.
I mean,
We really
come on
are.
now.
38. Yeah, for sure.
1993, and I had to look it up because I thought it was the Cotton Bowl, it's the Sugar Bowl when Miami lost to. That's when I stopped being a Hurricanes. Like I stopped being a Canes fan when the Canes lost to Alabama.
Shit.
When George Teague ran down that and the Hurricanes receiver and stripped the ball, just ripped it out of
I
his
think it was
hand.
Lamar Thomas, right?
You know what? You're right. I think
Yep.
it was Lamar Thomas. He chased him
Yep.
down. I swear to God, like I wanted to say for the longest time, I'm like, this dude chased him down from like 20 yards behind, but I think he was like 5 to 10 yards behind him. And he chased him down, ripped the ball from him, and that was it. Gino Toretta was playing. So I wonder if that was his last year or second to last year, but it was heartbreaking. And at that point, I stopped. Well, I didn't stop being, but like for like 10 years now, I haven't been one of these fans that. Let me rephrase. I'm not even a fan. I'm not a fan of a team anymore. I'm a fan of the sport, whether it's football, basketball. I want to see quality on the field or on the pitch or on the court, whatever I'm watching. And so I don't, root for any particular team, which is why if the Cavs are doing good, I live in Cleveland. I go watch the Cavs.
Ooh, so
I
you
hate
got a big
LeBron, but
Harrison hurt
when
today.
LeBron was here, I went to watch him. I went to playoff games because they were relevant because LeBron was playing, and they've been playing decent as of late as well. But I don't even keep up with teams like I used to because I don't have a vested interest in any one particular team. Yeah,
It's a good way to do
I
it.
need a rooting interest.
For a long time, I didn't really have an NFL team. Growing up, I was actually a big Broncos fan, and then had some heartbreak the similar way that you described. When I think in one off season they fired Mike Shanahan, traded Jay Cutler, traded Brandon Marshall, and I couldn't do that anymore. So didn't have an NFL team for like 10 years, and then became a Bills fan. So
When did you become a Bills fan? What made you become a Bills fan?
I had always liked the Bills, and then
why?
I'm
sorry.
Well, honestly,
I thought I was on mute.
I do know why. I do know why, and it sounds stupid, but playing Madden is like an 8-year-old ish, something like that. You do the my player thing, and I got drafted by the Bills, and just played dozens and dozens and dozens of hours with their roster from like 2006 or something like that. So I would have been older than 8, but 12, 13, something like that. But back when they had Takeo Spikes and Eric Moulds and Roscoe Parrish and those guys.
Yeah.
And Willis McGahee early in his career. So playing with those teams. So like I always cheered for the Bills just because I knew their roster so well. And then I saw Josh Allen play in college. because I went to Utah State and same conference as Wyoming, right? So
Mhm.
they drafted Josh Allen, and I was like, I liked him, figured I'd cheer for him, and then I'm a big proponent of like you're not actually a fan unless it ruins your day when they lose, and so it was like I called it we were dating for a little bit. I was dating the Bills, and it worked. There's chemistry, so I locked it down.
You put a ring on it.
I did.
Yeah, put a
I
ring.
put a ring on it.
Not a Super Bowl ring though, but
Yeah.
No,
Have you
that's-
ever thrown yourself to a table?
I have not.
Okay.
I don't plan on it. I don't plan on it at all.
It's a little bit too much.
Yeah, maybe if they win a Super Bowl, I'll do it. But yeah, like I tried dating a few different teams in that span in the NFL, and at the end of the day, I couldn't bring myself to care when they lost. And what fun is that? Like what fun is pretending that you like a team? So,
Oh, believe me,
Just
hey,
has to happen.
my days are ruined on a daily basis. Believe me, this is the way to go.
yep.
I live a
Every
miserable
single
life.
day.
Every
Yeah,
day.
sometimes twice a day, depending on the times of the games. You might have his day shitted on twice.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah,
tell you,
man.
last week the Rangers and the Nets were on a West Coast trip. I stayed up to 1 in the morning to watch both those dumbasses lose. I tell you, man, this is not a life.
Oh, man. Yeah.
No, it's not. Well, yeah, man. So you
Thought I
said
died.
you went to Utah State.
Yep.
You went to Utah State. Look, me and John know you live in Utah.
Yeah.
Last time you were on the show, we spoke strictly Canes, which we might cover at the end of this pod. But just want to ask you, man, like, what's it like? What do you do in Utah? First of all, what's it like growing up in Utah? I have no idea. I have generally no idea because I don't know cold weather habits, trends, or anything like that.
So Utah's an interesting place. I've done a fair amount of travel in my life, and Utah is a totally different culture than I should say this. I haven't been to like what's considered the deep South, right? Like the Bible Belt South. I haven't traveled anywhere in that range. So maybe there's some parallels between Utah and the Bible Belt, but from my experience, Utah is pretty unique in its culture, just because America is an incredibly diverse place. Believe it or not, like it's
No, we know.
yeah, it's the most diverse developed country on the planet. It really is. There's not a country with more racial and ethnic diversity, religious diversity, cultural diversity, all that stuff. There's not a country that has more. Whereas Utah might be the least diverse place in the whole country, which makes an interesting culture when you juxtapose them, right? Because I think it's like 80% or something is white, over 60% is the same religion, and if you track political voting data, it's like the most politically uniform state, or one of them, maybe not the most anymore. So it's really just like a place where most people think the same and they have relatable life experiences. Did you have a question, Daniel?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
You went to Utah State. You didn't go to BYU. But could you have gone to BYU?
I could have. I was actually accepted to BYU. I chose not to. So it's kind of weird. It would be maybe you guys wouldn't understand exactly what I'm talking about.
But you have to be Mormon to get to BYU, don't you?
So you don't have to.
Okay.
But you have to. So you don't have to be Mormon to go to BYU. However, you sign a contract when you go to BYU.
Okay.
So you're willfully going, right? And your acceptance is conditional on signing a contract that they call the honor code, right? Which essentially says that you'll live a Mormon lifestyle.
Even if you don't convert to the religion?
Correct. They don't make you convert to the religion, but they say that, if you're on campus, if you're enrolled, you have to live by this standard of living, right? This moral code, which is pretty much the same as what Mormons follow in their daily lives anyways.
Right.
But I don't know, dude, the culture is interesting in BYU and around it that it wasn't for me. Because it's very I don't know, not that I mean, I am Mormon, right? So not that I have an issue with it, but it's just like it's so focused. Like Utah's super Mormon anyways, but at BYU there's like a magnifying glass on it. And, that wasn't my speed. So I just wanted to go to a secular school where pretty much everyone around me was Mormon anyways, not everyone, but it matched the dynamics of the state anyway. So it was like 60%. Right. So yeah, BYU is not my speed, but my sister goes there.
How are you not a Jets fan?
What do you mean? Oh, Zach
Wilson. Come on, man.
Yeah.
He's repping for the Mormons.
No, I want him to do good, I want Zach Wilson to do good, but I'm not cheering against him. But I don't know.
You cheer for him when he's not playing the Bills, right?
Like, yeah, so
do you check in on?
He's actually from my hometown. Like he went to high school with my little sister. Really? Yeah. And that's actually Jackson Dart, who's going to start for Ole Miss next year. He went to the same school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Got some QBs coming out of Utah.
That's right. It's a factory now.
Yeah.
Steve Young.
You got two.
Yeah.
D1. Steve Young, too?
Yeah. He went to BYU. And Jim McMahon, believe it or not.
That I did not believe that. No.
Yeah.
I think you're lying.
But Jim McMahon didn't go there for the entirety of his college career, did he?
He did, yeah.
He did? Okay.
I believe so.
I mean, I knew he went. I just wasn't sure if he had gone, all 4 years.
I'm pretty sure he has no affiliation with Mormonism at all. Because that's totally not his vibe at all. But he did go to BYU and play there. So
yeah, I just looked it up. It's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fact check.
We do live fact checks right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So you choose Utah State.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your college? Look, I had a military experience. John had a military experience. Then went to college. What was your college experience like? In such, like you were saying, like how you traveled some, but the lack of diversity that happens in Utah because like it's so uniform. What was it like?
So college, Utah State. So it was like about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes from where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in a tiny farm town, like agriculture, right? So, and it's a fairly isolated valley in Utah anyways. Like it's not super easy to get to. You have to go through a canyon that always has bad weather.
What the hell?
Yeah, so it's like so it's actually, believe it or not, it's usually 15 degrees, 20 degrees colder than Salt Lake, even though it's so close. But yeah, dude, it's just Cowtown. There's not much to do, it's like
it's easy to live the Mormon lifestyle there.
Yeah, right. And there were like I had friends that weren't and didn't care for it and whatever. Like it wasn't a big deal. That's never been like I never chose who I hung out with because of that, right?
Right.
Yeah, like now, religious values. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just had a quick question.
I was just saying, sorry. For me, religious values are not everything, right? Like, if I align with people in other ways, then it wasn't ever a barrier. If that makes sense.
Facts. Yep.
Now, did you ever consider applying to go to UM?
UM? Yeah, I did. I did consider it actually. You know how
I don't know how easy it is to follow that lifestyle in UM. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been fine. Like, I've never been someone who had succumbed to peer pressure. So it's like I'm doing my thing. Like I live a specific lifestyle because I want to, not because I feel pressured. And like I backpacked through Europe in my early 20s. And met all kinds of different people and, hung out with different groups and stuff. And it's like, I was always vibing, like I'm happy to go to a bar with a whole bunch of people and I'm just chilling in the corner drinking Diet Coke and I don't, just there for a good time.
Don't worry. If that makes sense. I drink water. I don't drink. I drink water.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, it's never, you know what I mean? Like I've never viewed the lifestyle that I choose to live is an obstacle. It's like I can do it wherever. It's because I'm confident in my identity and who I am and how I want my life to go. So it's like I'd never shy away from a situation. Well, there's exceptions, obviously, but it's,
Right.
it's never like, oh, I wouldn't go there because all my friends would be drinking. It's like, whatever, I'm fine. I can have a Diet
That's awesome.
Coke. Like, why would I have a problem with that? So
John, you got
same
something?
thing.
Or you
People-
want to say something?
I'm the designated driver everywhere I go. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You saved my life a few times. So
yes, sir.
salute to you.
Yep.
But yeah, man. Who's gonna say something?
I was.
Okay.
Utah State was cool though. It was. I don't know. It's beautiful, beautiful campus. You guys should actually look up what the campus looks like because it sits right at the mouth of a canyon, and there's really beautiful steep mountains everywhere in Utah. So more of that.
I keep smiling, Jay. I'm listening to what you're saying, Jordan. But anytime you say canyon, Danny's face goes, nope, because he has a fear of driving in anything inclement weather. Because the time he almost died a couple times driving into Tennessee.
Oh, geez.
I don't like driving on steep roads. I'm gonna tell you how bad it is.
Yeah.
Just recently, last Saturday, I went to Miami Beach, and they had a parking garage on Lincoln Road. Okay, and I went in there. I didn't expect the parking lot to be so steep, and it's one of those new fancy garages. So like they don't have walls on the sides. It's just a steep, like incline.
Yeah.
So I went over the first one, looked around, no parking. Went on the second one, looked around, no parking. But at this time, at that point, my heart's going really fast. It's not a game. Like this is terrifying to me.
Yeah.
My wife's like, just check the next one. I said, no, we're leaving. I was like, it says I got 10 minutes to get out of here before they start charging me. So I went and I slowly left. But it is that bad. Not even a parking garage that has steep roads. I can't do it. It's terrifying to me.
I got you. Yeah, I don't know if you do well out here, my man. Like,
probably not.
Yeah.
Hey, Danny, have your parents let you out of the bubble? Like, how did you live your childhood?
I didn't crawl. My parents didn't let me crawl. They didn't want me to mess up my knees. That's why I got pretty knees.
Were you homeschooled?
No, but I do have pretty knees.
That's why he wears ripped jeans.
Something.
That's why I could wear ripped jeans now. That was the end goal. My parents knew it.
For that one time, he wore olive ripped jeans, yo.
That's
my god!
Hey, look, let me tell you, I felt uncomfortable, but I wasn't embarrassed by it because I know I got a pretty knee. So it wasn't.
You have no scrapes.
The prettiest knees in South Florida.
Yeah.
No scrapes. I got, everybody got those permanent scrapes from when they were kids. My knees are perfect.
That's a weird flex, but I dig it.
You put that on your resume?
Hey, if I'll apply for a short company anytime. Shorts? That's a great idea. See if I get a sponsorship.
Put that shit in
I
your
wonder
bio.
I got good knees. I never crawled. I got good knees. Top of my resume right there.
Number one.
I wonder if
knees in
that's
the game,
something.
yo.
I wonder if that's something when you go to a job interview and they're like, tell us something that we don't see on your resume. Tell us something about you. It could be professional or personal. He goes, I got the best knees in the 305.
No, I won't even say it. I was like, you just wait, and I'll unbuckle my pants. Look at you.
Hey, do you got any of those cargo shorts where you unzip the bottom half of the leg? Is that what you're?
That would be a great idea. I used to have them back in the day, and I was like in 8th grade. You could just convert the pants into shorts.
Yep, I had some too.
Oh my god!
That's it. It was perfect for school because I had to wear pants for school, part of the uniform. But you unzip it right after school, rocking shorts.
They were like the tearaways, right? Like almost like the old basketball uniforms. They rip them off. Then he just at any moment, hey, what y'all want to see some knees?
Breakaway khakis.
Hey, LeBron James got some ugly ass knees, so
yeah, he does. What are you gonna say, Jay?
By the way, I'm looking at the pictures, at images of the campus.
Hey, do screen share, bro. Let's see it.
No wonder. I would love to go to school in that environment. That's pretty amazing view every day from pretty much
free to
anywhere you are
screen
on
share it though,
campus.
so we could see it too, though, huh? Like,
I could feel free. I don't have to share it with Jordan because he went there. He knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I want to see. We want to comment on it too. You selfish.
Yeah, but if I share my screen, then what would happen is that your internet might crash.
This is also true.
This is true.
This is true.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Unfortunately, it's so cold there, but so the semester would start late August, right? So late August until about November 1st, it's like one of the prettiest places you'll ever see in your life, right?
Oh wow.
But then the problem is like it's cold until May. So it's like almost finals week is when the weather starts to turn good again. Other than that, it's one of the coldest places you'll ever be in your life.
So it's like Cleveland with a good view because it's cold here till May. It's in the 40s and 50s still.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow,
So
that's
how
the
do
whole
you
campus?
get there? Do you have to like go up a mountain and then come back down, or is there like literally like a road through the canyon?
It's roads through the canyon. Yeah.
Yeah, real quick. I have to like back up Danny on this one. I'd be a little bit of like I'd have fear. Like I'd have some like was it Daybreak or the movie with like Sylvester Stallone where like the canyon falls and they're like stuck in the middle of it. They got to get out of it. Like I'd have that fear when I'm going through a tunnel like that.
Well, so so the canyon you go through is called Sardine Canyon, but it's like the way that it's, I don't know all the geology of it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's a microclimate in that canyon because you go up into it and then it's a winding road through it and elevation changes a few times. It's one of the more dangerous canyons to drive through in Utah, but it's because like it can be sunny on both sides and then it can be snowing in that canyon. So like, there was times where it'd be like, oh, the weather's bad in the canyon. Like I am not going home to see my family this weekend now. Like that's
how long
just one
does
of
it
the
take you to
realities.
drive through the canyon?
20 minutes. It's not that long. But the problem is
terrifying
like
20 minutes though.
Yeah. Only if the weather's bad, and
right.
it's not like it's always terrible.
Nope, it's always for me.
That was the best part of living in Washington State for me, which was all these passes when you're going through the mountains.
Yeah.
And there's a blizzard or a snowstorm or whatever. A lot of times they would shut them down.
Yeah.
And other times, you just got to put like spikes on your tires and go slow.
What?
And you just look down and it's just like hundreds of feet below you, nothing but mountains and trees, and you're white knuckling it. I love that feeling. And my wife and kids are in the car with me, and they're looking at me like, "Hey, slow down a little bit." I'm like, "I got this. We're good."
What?
That's the last thing I'm telling my family. I'm telling my family, brace yourself.
No, what you're doing is putting the car in park, putting the e-brake on, and having your wife drive the rest of the way because it gets real dicey.
That's right.
Yes, and please don't judge me, Jordan, but I did that last year in Tennessee. I went up a steep hill. The car turned off. I said, "That's it." I got upset at her. I was like, "Why'd you make me come on this trip? I'm scared of heights. You knew this." I turned it off, and I said, "That's it. We're just gonna stay here. We'll figure it out later." But I needed time to. She got in the car and she took over. Whatever.
It's a great. Every time I hear that, it's a great story. He's like, "All right, this is it. This is where we're staying."
No, I said, "This is as far as we got."
Yep.
I know. I'll tell you a story like that. For us, we went to we were in the Azores islands off the coast of Portugal, and my wife is driving because she's the only one that had the international driver's license. And so we're driving, and it's like same thing. It's look right out your window, you're off a cliff. So you're just driving. We're trying to see these like two lakes, and we're driving up this thing. The road's end is just gravel road, driving up, and now this other bus is coming. It's just a 1-lane road, and you're off a mountain. Right next to you is another mountain. So you're just a little carve in a mountain. And then we're driving, and I was like, "So this is how we die, right? Like this is it. Like this is I'm ready to meet my maker. This is it. Like I don't know how we live. We had to like literally get up on a little bit on the mountain, so let this bus go through, and then we found like a little bit of a width, like a wider lane to do like a 3-point turn. I was like, we turning around. Like we saw at the top of the mountain. I was like, I don't want to go up there. We got to drive back down. Let's just turn around now and figure it out. Terrifying. Yeah, terrifying. Because I'm terrified of heights.
Yeah,
terrified. And my wife is a great driver. I'm not knocking her, but still, the entire time, I mean, I am sweating. It's cold. Like it is uncomfortable. It is terrifying. She's like, I don't know what we're doing. I was like, this is it, babe. Like, who's gonna find us? You know what I mean? Like, what? We're off a mountain somewhere, and the
Portuguese people.
You think so? You think so?
Hey, by the way, you speak about fear of heights, and when we were, I've had to think for heights. I'm not a whatever, but every time I see something, I have to. You're right, because I lack height. Yeah. That's why my fear of heights. Thank you. For that.
But that's why you have
it. Thank you for that input.
No, it's because you don't have height.
Complex.
Yeah, so you're like, I'm not gonna be afraid of this because I don't have it. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Thank you. That's right. You know what? I shouldn't be afraid of it because I don't know what height is. You're right.
Exactly.
Great. I should look at it
High
that way
chairs.
from now on.
Exactly. Sorry.
But
Every time he mentions height, we have to do it.
I jump off bridges into like rivers or like the beach when we're in Miami. There's this thing called Devil's Hole in like close to Gainesville, Ocala National Forest. It's like there's this hole in the ground in the middle of the forest. Who knows, 200 feet deep. Someone built like a little steps on the tree. It's about 50 feet off the thing. Huh?
Well, I'm sorry. What now? No, I heard what you said, but you just jump into
and you do this for fun?
Yeah. And I'm like, I look, because if you have a thing for heights, right? Like everything's good until you look down. You can look across, everything's great. The minute you look down, if you get vertigo or whatever, it hits you. I don't get vertigo, but I look down, I'm like, shit, that's tall. And then I just jump off because you know what? I do it because of the free fall feeling. I've gone skydiving. I love that feeling. That free falling is incredible. So if I just got to deal with like looking down a little bit, whatever, I get over it. But Javi, so my youngest son, when we went to Switzerland, we were going paragliding, and he was all for it till we got to the top, and he was crying. And this was 2019, so he was 11, and we're jumping with other people, right? The actual pros, and we're just attached on a harness. And he like didn't want to go, and the guy was like, "Hey, I can't make him go if he's like crying." And so I talked to Javi, and he was still kind of nervous, but he kind of didn't want to go. And my wife looked at him, at the guy. She said, "Just run. He'll be fine. Just run." And he did. He ran, jumped off the cliff. He did his thing for like 5 minutes. By the time we got to the bottom, he wanted to do it again. But till this day, if we were to go paragliding again, it would be the same thing. He would be probably terrified, pissing himself, not literally, but I know him because it's the same thing that I have. I have this thing of like heights, but I like the thrill. I like the adventure part of it. It's like if I have to deal with, that's why Tower of Terror was my favorite thing in what was it called?
I hate the feeling of falling.
Yeah,
not Universal, right?
Park? It's not Universal. It's MGM.
Hollywood Studios.
Yeah,
it used to be MGM.
Yeah. And it's 200 feet up in the air, and I'm like, man, I hate heights. Let's go do this ride. And I wouldn't go on anything else except that ride all day long.
I got to reevaluate. Like, Jordan said that he's been to Europe in his 20s. Ben just gave me a story about Portugal. John's talking about Switzerland, and all I can tell you about Space Mountain.
Hey, that's got us beat, right? We've gone to Europe. You've gone into space, man. You're the next frontier.
But it's better than Europe.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I got a question. Maybe one of you two, John or Jordan, that you guys have lived in places like that with mountains or whatnot. Is there a reason why when you're driving on those mountains, they don't decide to like put like a barricade or something to make us feel a little safer? Because like that was my biggest fear. Like if I fuck up, like
no. It's just Darwinism, man. We're big proponents of Darwinism out here. It's like if you can't drive, you don't deserve to live.
No, I mean that's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like. Said Darwinism.
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
but
just
I feel like
that's it though. That's the rule. That's it.
Hey, but it's true, right?
But like in your face.
Yeah, it's like if you can't color in the line,
some of us drive. Yeah, some of us drive, and some of us have pretty knees. So you choose what category you fall under.
Some of us drive, some of us fly.
Yeah.
Jordan said Darwinism. That's a great answer. Hey, I don't care if that's what it is from now on. That's what it is. Darwinism. Yeah, there's never any barriers. There's never
just like, a guardrail. I don't know what a guardrail does though. I've never hit into one, but I mean I hope it works. That's all we got.
Pretty sure you still go through it.
But
right?
Tennessee didn't have that. Yeah. But if Tennessee would have had at least that, I would have felt a little safer. Like, okay,
you wouldn't know where the edge was.
Okay, I might like bump into it, feel it, and then I gotta straighten out. But like when there was nothing there, I was just like, come on.
Bro, if you think Tennessee has mountains, you need to come out here, man.
It does. No,
I'm just saying.
Drive out. I drove through Colorado driving out there.
We call those hills out here, man.
Yeah, those are hills. I drove through Colorado getting out to you, bro. That's, you want to talk about scary?
Yeah.
Or talk about, white knuckling it in bad weather.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's intense, but
Yeah, he drove.
I got anxiety driving through San Francisco.
Yeah.
And it's
Dude,
just like
really?
hills. But
When I
at the red light, I was like, once I like pull this brake, that's it. We're going backwards.
Yeah.
I don't know how to stop this. So I put the gas, and then
Yeah.
you go up really fast, and then I saw nothing because they went right back down.
Yeah.
This shit ain't fun. Not for me.
Dude,
Flatlands.
when I was younger, my family drove to Yellowstone or Jackson Hole, which is near Yellowstone, and like we had a new car that was like this was right as GPS was starting to be put into your car, and so we just punched in our hotel, and the GPS took us through Teton Pass, but like so that's up and over the mountains, and like really steep stuff. And it was snowing up in the pass, and we had no way of knowing that. So we're driving through like 9,000 feet elevation, with barely any visibility out there. Whole family, we were all terrified. But
if you were terrified, I would have just parked.
yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
Let the wife drive.
I have no problems. Call me a bitch. I don't give a fuck.
You would have parked. You would have
This
parked
bitch
and
gonna
just
be
taken the
alive.
lotion out.
yeah,
Like let me moisturize these knees.
just lube them up,
The world
lube
is
up
not
those
ready to lose
knees.
these knees. The world is
These
not
knees
ready to
gotta
lose
live.
these knees just quite yet. These knees.
So you
I
wouldn't
have
be
these
able to.
knees.
Yo, real quick, Danny. I'm sorry. We'll get back to this. Is a crazy ass conversation. But you really never crawled? Is that like a joke? Because I feel like it's
No,
actually
deadass,
true
my
that your
parents
mom
told me
never.
my knees. No, my mom was crazy. She's like, no, you're gonna mess up his knees. Look, that's the story that both my parents told me. Who else is gonna? Nobody else knows. They both said it, so I gotta believe it. I mean, look at these knees. Do they look like they've ever crawled?
So,
I
how old
would
were you when
stand
you
up
learned
right
to
now,
walk
that's kinda
then?
Weird.
How old
That
were
is a
you
little
when you
weird.
learned to
I don't
walk?
know. I think 10 or 11 months.
Okay, I have no idea.
It was only like a
That's
short
normal,
span that I would have crawled, I guess.
Okay.
But my balance isn't the great. It's not the greatest. So pros and cons.
Did your
Pretty
brother?
knees,
Did your brother crawl?
Not good balance.
the give and take, right? You gotta have great knees or balance. You can't have both.
Well, maybe they
I
saw how
wasn't able to
messed up your
choose.
brother's knees were, and they were like, "We're not doing that again."
No. I'm the older brother.
Okay.
I'm the older brother. I think they saw
Wait, so
how
are you-
clumsy I was, and they're like, let's just let the kid crawl.
Yeah. So it was,
learned the
they
lesson
watched
with you.
they watched your social performance and were like, "We're not doing that again." I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Daniel.
I mean,
this didn't work.
are
Let's
those knees?
try this.
Are those knees doing anything
Would you
for
say-
you? Are you doing like commercial print work? Are you coming out on the cover of like,
Look,
Macy's,
It's
Nordstrom?
something that I'm proud of, but I've never actually let anybody else in on. Now that it's out there, I think I'm gonna pursue something.
You should.
You know, pursue something?
bro, you could do
Yeah.
like look. We're getting older, right? You could do like those copper fit knee
Yeah.
sleeve commercials.
Tommy Copper did.
But it covers the knees.
Well,
No, but
how
they
about
could-
the
you
one
have
that
that
has a little
split
hole?
second.
They're gonna show you putting it on
Yes.
though, right?
yeah, the knee
Yeah, like,
braces
it's
you
gotta
buy
be
at
like-
Walgreens. Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
you know what?
yeah.
Genius.
Yep, I
So
like
you
that.
Man
do like
chatter
some
brought to you
yeah.
by Walgreens. I got you.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Ace
Look at
bandage
these
knee
knees.
braces.
You know what I mean? Look, I already got the slogan.
Yeah.
The Man Chatter podcast brought to you by Ace Bandages.
The ace bandage. Yep.
Oh man!
Like all this shit we're talking,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna like tear my ACL in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Because you
But then you need the camera to pan down to you sitting in your chair wearing 2 knee braces. Some product placement.
Oh my god! Hey, did Alejandro crawl? Your little brother, or they
Yeah.
didn't let him
Yeah,
crawl
yeah.
either? Okay.
Yeah, no, something
You
must
know
have
what,
gone
though?
wrong with me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Alejandro had a
That
bunch of knee
strategy
problems.
didn't work,
Maybe,
Brandon.
maybe not
Yes,
letting
you know what? You are right, because my brother has horrible knees.
horrible knees. Legitimately, like
Hey.
legit horrible knees. He's torn
No.
almost
Yeah,
every ligament in both his knees.
Trust
Every
the
time
science,
this
man. That's all I need to hear.
That's it.
That's it. Oh my god, that's so wild, bro. That's so wild. We've been friends for like 15 years. I never knew you never crawled, or you weren't allowed to
Nah.
crawl.
I mean,
Now it's out there.
Yeah, I guess they
No,
just
this-
didn't let me for some reason.
This gets us a sponsorship. That'll be the greatest thing ever because Danny just got to constantly show his knees.
So Just start tagging him when you tweet out the podcast. Just start tagging Ace Bandage until you get one.
Get something popping off
Copperfield.
here.
Look at these knees.
You have a photo shoot with Brett Favre.
It'll be Brett Favre and Danny.
What are you here for? I'm the knee model.
I'm the knee guy.
I'm the knee guy. Stunt knee.
Or they have Brett Favre in the commercial, but when the camera pans down, they've swapped Danny's knees. It's not Brett Favre's knees anymore. It's Danny's knees.
I'm the double.
He's got a nice
I'm the
tan.
double. I'm for sure. I'm the double. I'm gonna be the.
Oh man,
I have now chosen a path.
oh that's funny.
The stunt
You
doubles.
gotta find your happiness, Danny. Oh, you gotta find your happiness.
Knee double.
I think I'm onto something here.
Daddy's out here to be the knee model. Hey, babe, I'm quitting my job. What you gonna do?
I
What
was,
show up these knees?
I was the lower leg double for Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre.
That's it. Nah, there's a
Oh
lot
my
of ugly
God.
knees out there. I could probably be a double for a lot of people.
Yeah, you know Aaron Rodgers will eventually take the Copperfit job, right? Like that's
Yeah.
gonna be next. They're gonna need the next generation. You could do Aaron Rodgers' knees.
For sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
My God, that is so stupid.
Aaron,
Hey, Jonathan, I had a sorry, just sidetracked. Is that? Do you feel better when it's unsnapped or when it's snapped? I just wanted to
Listen, man, to make you happy. All right.
look. He covers on his knees.
Sweater. I got a sweater.
he crawled. He crawled. You could tell he's a crawler.
You look like a crawler. I knew you son of a. I knew you were a crawler. Oh man. Oh, it's fantastic. It's the second crying over here. Still not as hard as we did for the Jonathan story. But-
No, that was the greatest. Hey Jordan,
that was great.
it says about fans. Is that your Twitter handle?
So at Jordan Canes is my personal Twitter handle. But
okay.
About the Fans is a company that I own part of it. So we do. It started mostly as Canes, Miami Hurricanes merch. In terms of stickers, we got into T-shirts and stuff. A lot of people bought our Super Miami T-shirt. You know when
Yep.
Mario Cristobal was hired.
Mhm.
So that was a pretty big hit. But yeah, so we rebranded. Used to be Stickers by AB. Rebranded for 2022, and got a lot of big plans for this year. You know, we're gonna try to get into some other markets and like scale it a little bit, right? Expand for other teams and we like to do marketing that we call "if you know" designs,
Okay.
right? So it's designs that any fan of their team,
I
they'll
know
immediately-
exactly what you
Yeah.
mean.
exactly.
Somebody
So,
else would hear it and they would have been like, okay,
Yeah.
but
for
like-
instance,
me as a fan, I know what you're talking about.
yeah. So we just put out our first design as a favor to me because my partner, a guy named Adrian Bistolfi, fantastic dude. He's from South Florida, right?
Mhm.
And is a fan of all the Florida teams and stuff. So as a favor to me, we put out a Utah themed shirt, which has like the powder blue and purple mountains looking stuff
Oh,
like Utah Jazz.
Beautiful.
And then it has like the Salt Lake City skyline like stenciled out of it, and then a big Eiffel Tower in the middle for my guy Rudy Gobert. Which
Okay.
you
See, 'cause
know,
I would have never got.
yeah,
it.
no, any Jazz fan would recognize it. So
That's
it's
cool.
been pretty cool, man. So yeah, we
Well,
do
let me
designs
know.
like
I
that.
mean, I don't have a huge following, but I got a
Yeah.
lot of New York backing, somewhat.
Okay,
So you let me know. Then I'll throw some ideas your way for the the teams that I follow.
for sure. I'll have to hit you up about that because we're always,
Yeah, okay.
it's not always easy to know what type of stuff will stick in a fan base, right?
Right. No, for sure. But
It's
but
hard
the
to fit
fans, the hardcore fans know
for sure.
those teams. Yeah.
For sure, and that's kind of our goal. Is part of expanding is it's important to be authentic and like you can't really fake having authentic designs that will resonate with a fan base. So
Mhm.
there's we're gonna have to do a lot of R&D and speak to people like yourself when we're expanding into new markets and really make designs that will mean something for the fans of those teams.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one thing I'll give Daniel a ton of credit for it. Like he's like I said, he has to wake up early every day, and he was up till 2-3 in the morning last week, watching his teams on a West Coast trip. Like I don't do that.
No, respect, man. Respect. So I have a question. Were you always a Nets fan, even when they were in Newark?
No. 2012. I came over.
Okay, and you were a Knicks fan before that?
Yeah.
Was it just? Did you just switch just because it was something fresh and exciting, and just not the Knicks?
It's weird because I think Brooklyn is kind of like you know how some people are about like their home countries. Like Ben reps Panama, even though he lived there for a couple of years, but like he's not there. But like just pride about being in Panama. It's really weird. People from Brooklyn have this weird pride about it. So I left, but once I found out that Brooklyn was getting a team, I was like, whenever they get a team, like I'm repping that. Because since the Dodgers, they didn't have one. Like they finally got something. So I was really excited. So,
I feel that
2012.
because I would change. I'm not a huge baseball fan anymore. Growing up, I was a pretty big Astros fan, but I haven't really cared about them since like 2008 probably. But if Salt Lake City gets an MLB or NFL team, like I feel you. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, like so, and I wasn't in Brooklyn when it happened. I mean, I drove up through a hurricane to make it to the first game, and then it got canceled. But whatever. And then I ended up staying for extra days to finally go to the first game. But yeah, like once I found out Brooklyn's getting a team, like they talked about it in 2003, JC's like, "Oh, I'm bringing a team," and I was like, "Yeah, maybe one day it'll happen." But once I found out what happened, I was like, 2012, I'm switching.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. So Ben and John, sorry, not to exclude you, Daniel. You just said that you hadn't been many places besides Space Mountain.
This is a fact, though. This is a fact.
Hey, no, he went to Epcot though. He went around the world in Epcot.
Okay, yeah,
that's right. I've eaten in more countries.
Well traveled,
fuckers.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to ask you guys about your travels and stuff because I fashioned myself a travel junkie. I studied history in college. I'm a big Europhile, I guess. I've only traveled to the only other continent I've traveled to is Europe. But spent a lot of time over there backpacking, whatever. Been to 15 countries over there. You guys have any tell me about your travels, I guess. I know I'm asking you a question now, but I'm interested.
No, that's fine. John, you go first. You haven't.
Yeah, I mean it's so. I think the first place I traveled to was when I was younger, a teenager. I went over to Mexico when I lived in Houston for about 3 months. My stepfather at the time worked for Continental, and he ended up moving to Houston because that's one of their big hubs. And so we went to Mexico, and then as I got older, eventually I went to college, dropped out, joined the army, and I was stationed in Korea for like 4 years.
Cool.
And so from Korea, I visited I went all over Korea. Went to Japan, went to Thailand. I met my wife because she was also stationed in Korea. We went to China together with my oldest son. And I mean, the army kind of sends you all over the place. So we've been all over the States. And even in the States, we would travel on the weekends or anytime there's a holiday. If you're in the military, you get a 4-day weekend. Cool. You get the holiday plus the day after or the Friday before. Yeah. And so we would take road trips where, somewhere where if we're living in Columbia, South Carolina, we'd go out somewhere into the Smokies in Tennessee and North Carolina, or we have family in Virginia Beach, or we just go explore. Cool. And then we had 2019, we had like a 3-week trip in Europe. And, we started in Germany. We rented a 9-passenger van and drove down to Italy, to Switzerland, France, Belgium,
that's awesome,
Amsterdam, all over the place. And then we spent a week in Spain because I have family in Spain.
Cool.
So that, and the reason why we travel is because when it's time for us to retire, we're not looking at staying in the States. We'd like to go somewhere like Spain or Colombia, which we need to go visit in South America. Danny's shaking his head because when I said I'm retiring somewhere outside the States, because he's like, why would you leave the greatest country in the world? I'm like,
the greatest country in the world.
So it is the greatest country in the world. For me to make all my money and get my pension, it is the greatest country. That's right. Thank you, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Exactly. Danny hates Lin-Manuel Miranda, by the way.
I don't hate it.
But
I'm
to
you do.
retire,
He's too talented for you. I know. I
he
get
is too much. But to retire in and to enjoy my money and my retirement and everything else, there's more. I could get a better standard of living outside of it, outside the U.S. You know what
it. Better
I mean?
bang for your buck. Yeah.
Bigger bang for your buck, and
Well, you could
I've
live like
seen-
a king in Thailand for what middle class people live
for
here.
sure.
You know?
$1,500 a month, and you can have whatever you want. You have someone come clean your house, have
Yep.
someone cook, like very affordable. I was in Thailand.
Yeah.
I only spent like a 4-day weekend in Thailand, but yeah,
Yeah.
you can live like a king.
I'd rather live in an efficiency here in the States than like a king in Thailand. I'll tell you that.
And I'm not trying to live in Thailand, but
No,
that's
no.
the mentality that we have here. It's like I'd rather be in the greatest country in the world and live in a 15 by 20 room that has my kitchen and my bathroom and my bedroom in it than go live
But
in
I'm
like
the freedom.
the freedom. But you know what? There's freedom everywhere else too. Definitely not.
Yeah.
I've seen it, not as much as it is here, but
Yeah.
it was just crazy to me when we were in
Get you
Europe.
some freedom
because-
fries.
Yeah, I love those. But it was crazy because in Europe you drive from one country to another and everything's different. I mean,
Yeah.
not just the people, but even like the scenery and every country is different.
Yeah.
Here in the States, you can drive for I don't know how many states and everything's the same.
Nah.
Like I could do without the entire
Yeah, it
middle
is.
of the United States. Like I've driven through Nebraska and Oklahoma, and they all look the same to me.
Yeah.
There's just
Well,
flatlands.
I can tell you what. So, out here in the West, there's something we call the Mormon corridor, right? Which is just kind of the piece of the stretch of land that Mormon pioneers settled, right? So,
Right.
like, you can go from Idaho. I actually did this drive just a few weeks ago. Idaho Falls in southeastern Idaho down to St. George, Utah is about a 9-hour drive, and exactly the same demographics in 9 hours. Whereas on some of my Europe trips, I've driven from Amsterdam to Paris in like 5.5 hours, and you go through. Officially, it's just one language change, but in reality, it's actually 4 different languages that you're hitting. If you are including dialects and just the buildings look different, the people are different,
the architecture.
it's just everything is so totally different, right? So, I mean, that's something that I personally love. I'm like a culture junkie when it comes to European history. I could definitely see myself living somewhere else, but I think it wouldn't be so much of like, this is where I am forever. It's more of like my mindset is like, I've always really been intrigued by the idea of how culture shapes who you become, right? Like, would I be the same person? Because I was describing Utah earlier, like very uniform, right? So many people are the same here. So me and my exact genetic code, if it was born in South Florida, would I be the same person? And like just that concept like is super interesting to me. And
That's a
so
hell
I
of a
have
question,
this,
Joe.
yeah, so that's like I have this affinity for trying to immerse myself in other cultures and allowing it to shape the way that I think and the way that I see the world, if that makes sense. It's just something I'm always toying with mentally.
Nature
That's-
versus
no,
nurture.
Yeah, Joe. What are you gonna say?
No, you mentioned you studied history, and so that's one of the reasons why I always wanted to travel to Europe and eventually settle there. Because, in high school I took art history, AP art history.
Yeah.
Then in college I continued, and so that's something that everywhere we went, the architecture, the art, the history, the culture. I feel like, and by the way, the same could be said about the U.S. You can, if you wanted to, you can go somewhere and learn something new, but just the difference between the architecture here and over there, I feel like I could go to so many different cities just within Spain, and it could take up years of my life just trying to learn something about those places, let alone trying to go to different countries and those histories. And I mean, it's natural, right? Because the US is, just 200 some years old, and there's so much more history in Europe. And so it's natural that would happen.
Well, so the topic of diversity, sorry if I digress too much here from what we've been talking about, but
no,
not at all.
America is extremely diverse culturally and racially, we'll say. Like racial demographics is a concept that is pretty unique to America, actually.
Yeah.
And it's because of how it was settled, right? Meaning that all these European immigrants are coming over and forming a heterogeneous society. Heterogeneous society, right? So they're blending Irish and Italian and German and Swedish culture, right? And just kind of forming a new culture that becomes New York City, right? Or any given city. Whereas in Europe, so essentially ethnic diversity doesn't exist in America, right? But racial diversity does. Whereas in Europe, it's kind of the flip, where it's like racial diversity is not very relevant in European society, but ethnic diversity means everything. And it always has, right? So talking about how diverse Spain can be, like if you're up in Asturias or Asturia or Galicia or wherever, like they really recognize their Celtic roots that go back to 2,000 years ago, right? Whereas if you're in southern Spain, there's you can't avoid the influence of Islamic conquest, right? And so it doesn't really reflect in the racial diversity, right? Because most people in Europe tend to look the same in any given country, but the history is different because we're talking about how diverse these ethnic groups could be, right?
Correct.
Different languages, totally different cultures, and they all leave their stamp. That's why Europe is so intriguing to me. It's totally the opposite of where we live,
Right. And by the way, I know that us here, we understand those differences, but someone listening at the most basic level, when we talk about racial, and this is not an encompassing definition, but we're talking about racial diversity or race. We're talking about characteristics, physical characteristics of what people look like as compared to ethnicity or ethnic backgrounds, where we're talking about
culture, religion,
and culture, and what forms those societies. So two completely different things.
Yeah.
But it is flipped. The U.S. Is very diverse racially, whereas in Europe, for lack of a better term, everyone looks the same, but completely different cultures everywhere you go.
Yeah, I was reading. It's just kind of interesting, the ideas of these things, and not that I want to ever come across as speaking from where I'm totally understanding of the experience of different racial groups or ethnic groups or whatever. But I was actually really surprised to find out that the U.S. invented the idea of Hispanic. I had no idea. I mean,
for the census, right?
Yeah, for the census, because of the way that the U.S. was settled, it's okay, we all have these people from the Viceroyalty of New Spain in the Western U.S. There's people from the Caribbean coming up, and it's how do we make sense of this diversity that is so different from everywhere else in the world, right? So, yeah,
it's great. It's crazy you say that, right? I'm bringing up Spain, where we talk football, European football on the show, and there's this team that plays for La Liga, which is the Spanish top league, and they have this place, I think it's Bilbao, right? Athletic Bilbao, where they do blood work for each player on the team, and they have to like trace back their blood work for like being descendants of that town and and of that culture. And
Really?
and you'll see them, and they're all diverse. They don't look the same or anything like that, right? Like they have to be from that city. They have to like be of that culture, but the race of it doesn't matter.
So you
Like
have to
it goes
be
to
from Bilbao to play for Bilbao?
yeah. You have to be
Interesting.
you have to be from the Basque
Yeah.
Basque side of to play for that athletic for that soccer team.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
But-
pretty insane, man.
Yeah.
Your roots have to trace back to that, right? Like that,
Okay.
not
Yeah.
you, right? Like if you
Not you
had
specifically, but
4
your blood.
generations back,
That's
You have
fascinating.
to. Yeah, your blood has to trace back to that.
So that's another reason
area.
why I've always been super intrigued with Europe is just the way that like there's a few cultures in Europe. Basque is one of them, where so Europe, for the most part, what we understand of Europe when we think Europe is Indo-European culture, right? Indo-European languages, which are Germanic languages, Latin languages, Celtic languages, Greek languages. So pretty much 90% of Europe is of Indo-European descent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a few little pocket cultures around Europe that weren't from Indo-European origins. And that's so fascinating to me. Like the three that stick out is there's Basque culture in Spain, which is actually they're from sorry, I'm getting into the weeds here a little bit. From pre-Indo-European migration, right? So essentially, it was like the descendants of cavemen. I mean, this isn't very succinct a history. Person would probably be pissed at me because it's not exact. But essentially, it was like that's a culture. Basque culture and society has been there like 3,000 or 4,000 years. And it's we don't really know much of anything about the people that were in Europe before Indo-European society got there. It's really amazing that Basque culture is still there, and it's just fascinating to me that they've kept their language. That's what I love. That is so fascinating to me. I know that exists in other parts of the world, but for whatever reason, Europe is just really fascinating for me.
A really interesting book about basically Europe and kind of it's called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. He's a Israeli historian, and he breaks down all the different cultures and like historically, right, like from the beginning to like now. And he talks about it like how you have these like cavemen and all these different like human, like to say but like a better word, like humanoids, right? Like these different cultures and different societies and different civilizations, and they break it all down. And it's mostly Europe based, right? Like Africa and you get into the Europeans and like the different stuff. It is crazy, right? Like when you realize and recognize the history of Europe as infantile as like the history of America is, in that sense, like of what we know of America. So that all that stuff is really interesting and entertaining, man. And it's just it's a good conversation to have too, because it's like you'll like when we went to Spain, like we did an 18-day honeymoon through Spain and Portugal, basically. Right, Barcelona, we did a bunch of cities in Spain, and you go to like these little day trips, and you'll see a church, right, that has like 8 different religions of influence.
Yeah,
and like where depending on who took over that town for those hundreds of years, like you'll see how they built up on that same thing.
Yeah.
So you'll see Muslim influence, you'll see Christian influence, you'll see Catholic, and like all these things, and it's right there. Like you literally see history right in front of you. It was like holy shit, like that's insane. Like you can see it right in front. Like here you don't see it. Here you just see a church. You see a church. You don't see like a 600-year-old church.
Yeah,
and the history with it.
So, dude, so I my favorite thing to study in history is the Roman Empire. And so a lot of my travels in Europe have been specifically to see like off the beaten path. I actually haven't been to Italy, believe it or not. I've been waiting until I have enough money that I can do Italy like the way that I need to do it, right? It's going to be like my magnum opus for my whole life is like my trip to Italy where I can see all these Roman sites in person. But I've managed to see all the Roman sites, well, wherever I go, right? There's a lot in the UK. I've seen some in France. But so I was in Germany in 2019, a border town called Trier, which in the ancient world became pretty influential. It was one of when Rome for a little bit did a government called the Tetrarchy, and where they divided the administrative zones. So there was 4 capitals of the Roman Empire for a little bit, right? And Trier was one of them. And there's perhaps the best Roman ruins north of Italy in the whole world are in Trier. So I go there, and I was standing on top of a 4-story stone gate that was like 2,000 years old. And it just like totally blew my mind, like you guys have like St. Augustine out there on the East Coast, that you can go and like, hey, this is 500 years old, whatever.
Right.
Dude, in Utah, like the first Europeans got here, or, the first Mormon pioneers got here were 1847. You know what I mean? Like that is the start of our history out here, at least recorded history. You know, because there were definitely Native American tribes out here before then, but you know, there's not really much that you can read about. There's not much that you can like, you know what I'm saying, experience today earlier than 1847. So like, it's just astonishing, you know, to be like, I'm standing on top of a building that's 100 feet tall and it was built 2,000 years ago. And I don't even know how I got here, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
that actually, now that you say that, you know, John wants to go retire in Europe. Like, when you go over there, like, is there a chance that you buy like a pre-construction, or like, do those exist over there? Since it's like that old? Because I would figure like everything's constructed already, no?
There's new
Yeah.
construction there.
Yeah.
There is.
I think I think a lot of
So-
times though, people would just gut their house and like totally redo the inside, you know, of existing
Right.
structures that have been there for a few hundred years. But I mean, so I went to England in 2019, that same trip. It was different than some of my others. And I was living with one of my buddies who was working there, and the house that we were in was built in the 70s. So, you know, I mean,
So
there is new
you
construction.
don't like vacation. You move there.
I mean, kind of. So my first trip to Europe was like 4 weeks long. My second
Nice.
trip to Europe was even longer. It was 6 weeks long. And then my third trip to Europe was 8 weeks long. So yeah, kind of like.
So
I
you
try
really
to
throw
make it
yourself
like a
in.
10
It's
weeks?
not just like, yeah, that's the math of it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, sorry. What did you say, Daniel? I didn't hear what you said.
No, I said the next one's 10 weeks.
Yeah, I hope so.
My brain is stupid. I'm sorry. I just blurted things out.
Danny
You did the
with the
math,
hard
you did the
hitting
math.
analysis.
Just he
Yeah.
likes numbers, but what can you?
But you know, it's just like I said, it's all for me. It's like some type of, you know, intellectual fetish of like trying to fit in. You know, like I want to
That's
see
awesome.
how that society shapes me, and it's hard. Like, you know, I don't want to pretend like it's like it does. You know, I mean, there's only so much you can do in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks,
Yeah.
whatever, right?
What
But like that's at least what I'm trying for. You know.
what? So
That's
with
awesome.
your experience of like of embedding yourself in that culture for 4, 6, 8 weeks, right?
Yeah.
What differences have you found within yourself when you come back to the States, right? Because there is a difference.
Yeah.
There is like
For
when
sure.
you're over there and you see that they don't have like supermarkets the way we do, and
Yeah.
how your shopping is different, and just everything.
Yeah.
You come back, you're like, okay, what differences have you found within yourself and like in your surroundings, I guess.
Yeah. Well, so I want to say this with respect because I don't, I certainly don't want to come across like I'm invalidating any viewpoints, right? I think everyone's view of the world is valid because it's the sum of their life experiences, right?
You know what? That's a nice change of pace because Ben is so far from that. But go on. I'm sorry.
So, you know, part of growing up in Utah is like most people are just like super red party conservatives, right? Like, you know, like that type of thing. So growing up, I was the classic, like, and like I said, I don't mean to sound like I'm disparaging the type of stuff you were saying earlier,
No,
Daniel,
you're
where it's like, you know, like I was all about that. I was like, America
I'm
has
all smiles.
literally
Don't worry about it.
never done anything wrong ever. You know what I mean? Or like, it's perfect here. It's the greatest country on earth. You know, in Utah, we kind of take that to even a further level. You know, we sometimes intertwine our patriotism with the religious aspect, and it's like, dude, this is God's place. You know what I mean? Like, but so when I'm able to immerse myself, I guess it just shapes me where it's like, I see the validity in other ways of living. You know what I mean? So it's like,
For sure.
even if I don't prefer something, I lived in Mexico for a little bit as a religious missionary. And it's like, even though I prefer my way of life here versus my way of life in Mexico, like that doesn't mean that there's validity and like solace and like enlightenment in the way that people in Mexico live. And granted, that doesn't mean that it's all the same and it's all equal, but it all does have validity, right? Like the way that people in other countries do things. I think it's easy when you think that one place is better than another. I think it's easy to think like, well, those people don't do it like me because they're stupid, right? But I think you can really get the sense of like, they do it for a reason because that's more comfortable for
sure.
What their whole ethos as a human is.
That's what their reality is. Yeah, like it's what their reality is.
And it's totally valid. And
yeah.
I think we could all learn from it. Like if you go into it with the right approach, if you go into a different place rather than being like, this is so not as great as what I'm used to. If you approach it with a, what can I learn from this? Like people in Mexico, at least in my experience of living there, like it was so cool to see how they treated family and friends in terms of like, this is a group effort, right? Like, because with the relationship between Mexican citizens and their government, like the cards are stacked against them, right? And so this is a group effort. It's like if I have something, anyone who I love can have a piece of it whenever they need to. Like getting through life is a group effort down there.
Right.
And it's really beautiful compared to some of the mindsets up here. Yeah. And like not that one's better than the other, but it's like you just need to learn. You need to find out who you want to be, right?
Yeah, it's like recognizing that there's different realities to just the one you live in, right? Like just seeing different perspectives and just opening up your world.
Yeah, because like me growing up here, which is super uniform and everyone's kind of the same, like how egotistical or arrogant would it be for me to be like, this is perfect? This is perfect. And you three who didn't grow up in Utah and have the exact values and ideas are just wrong. Like
I gave you credit for that, Jordan. Like that's not an easy thing to do, right? Like a lot of people like to keep themselves comfortable.
Yeah.
Like to keep themselves within those, they have their family right down the road and everything.
But what you're doing, Jordan, is awesome. I would love to travel the world the way you do.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it.
You don't just travel; you like immerse yourself in where you're going, which is awesome. Because when I've traveled, I have traveled a little bit. Okay, I was just joking about the Disney World thing, but when I go and I sightsee. Basically, that's what I do. I don't actually get to like immerse myself with the people and get to like know them and the customers. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a it's not as comfortable, but like I just make rules for myself. Is like, so this last time I was in England, it was kind of my base. Like I was in England for 2 months, but while I was there, I did a trip to Luxembourg and Germany, and then I also did a trip to Estonia and Finland, to kind of break up the monotony and stuff. But when I was at my home base in England, like my thing was that I had to become a regular at a pub, and so by the end of my trip, when I walked into a pub, the whoever was managing the pub, the bartender, whatever, they knew who I was.
That's awesome.
Right.
That's awesome.
And it's like, even if they're just like, here's this annoying, stupid American that always comes in and talks to me, but like at least I was, you were trying.
They knew who you were. You were the annoying guy. It's fine. They knew who you were.
I don't know if they thought I was the annoying guy or not. They probably
took Danny's job.
At least they knew me, right? And so, it's just, yeah. I remember I went to, being a history buff, I'm good at trivia, right? So at the local pub, I go to trivia night, or question night as they call it, on Wednesdays, and thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna impress these people, whatever. And dude, I knew none of the questions because they were all British pop culture from like, I knew none of it. They were talking about TV shows, and like there was one question about James Bond that I got right, and then I got the rest wrong, like 1 for 15.
Talking about the original Office.
Yep. Yeah, it's just because it was like I've never seen any of these TV shows. I don't know who the actors they're talking about are. I've never heard of these politicians because I can only tell you like 5 politicians from the UK. Yeah, it was
more
just
than I can.
And two of them were from like World War II.
yeah,
But
right.
hey, who's doing the marketing for trivia night? Because in the U.S. it's on Wednesdays, just about everywhere I go, and it so happens that in England it's on a Wednesday night.
Yep.
Someone got together and decided trivia night is going to be Wednesdays.
I don't.
I guess.
Is
I
that
don't
a
go
thing?
to the trivia night. I don't go to the trivia night around me because it's all about the Confederacy. So I kind of just back away from that whole situation. I'm like, oh no, I'm cool. I'm all good here.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. But yeah,
Just
it is on a Wednesday.
Lots of
It is on a Wednesday.
honorific language when they're talking about, Civil War questions. And,
Exactly. It's a lot of painted motorcycles. The South shall rise again, and I'm like, nah, I'm good here, but let me just go ahead and head home and make sure all my lights are off so nobody thinks I'm home.
Yeah.
Nah, but yeah, it is on a Wednesday night though.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Must be a United Nations thing.
Exactly.
There's some group of guys in suits that are meeting at the United Nations like Wednesday's trivia night.
Yeah.
Like make it happen.
Make it happen, and that's it across it. That's dope though, man. Like, look, I gotta give you a lot of credit. Like I said, like to ask yourself that question of, like where do my morals and all this stuff and opening up your world is something that a lot of people don't do, not especially here, because but yeah, man, to do that and then to travel and immerse yourself, that's to be applauded, man. That's congratulations to you, because look, I didn't grow up. I was raised in Panama, came here when I was 5, 1989. Most of my traveling after that was really because of my wife. Like I wasn't a person who liked to travel just because I don't like planes. It's not like that I don't want to see the different cultures. Just like I'm terrified of heights. Like I got to take medication. I have to make myself go to sleep on planes. So, but once I traveled, I was like, oh, I want to do this shit forever. And then fast forward, you can't travel anymore. Like it's harder to travel now than ever. So I definitely want to get back to it, man. And just like I said, like it's one of the things that stuck with me was at church. So I was like, and seeing that, right? I was like, oh my God, there's nothing out there. I don't know anything about this world. Like just seeing that church, I was like, holy shit! Like in this small town, in the middle of a mountain in Spain, you know what I mean? Like it's just like this whole civilization that I would have known nothing about.
Yeah,
because it's not covered anywhere. You don't cover this in school. You have to go to these countries to see it. It's incredible. One of the things me and Danny always talk about is like we regret not traveling when we were younger.
Yeah.
Right. Like pre-families and all that stuff. Like to just not see these places and like see it. It was like one of the things we regret all the time. So, maybe we'll get to travel in the future. Who knows?
Dude, well, that you mentioned not covered in school and just like the thirst for knowledge and stuff. Lately, the thing that has flummoxed me is I'm really interested in ethnic groups and stuff from like the Roman period, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Romans famously warred with Celtic tribes called Gauls in modern France. And like Gaulish or Celtic culture back then became the dominant culture in Europe in the Bronze Age, right? So like from Ireland and Scotland over to the Danube River in like Hungary and Romania and even down into Greece, there was pockets of Celtic culture where it was dominant, right? Kind of the way that like Latin culture became for Europe later, right? Almost everyone speaks a Latin-based language, the Roman Catholic Church, stuff like that. But they didn't keep recorded history. So like, imagine if the Roman Empire came and went and didn't leave written
anything
history
behind.
Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know. For someone like me where I geek out about stuff like that, it's just like the ultimate intellectual blue balls. Where it's like, I need to know. I need to know, but I can't. I'll never know.
Yeah, you think about it, right? Like there's thousands of things we'll never know. Like there's things they could discover. They were like, yeah, we don't know why this is here.
Yep.
Like I'm fascinated with like the Ancient Alien, like the whole show of it. Not like their theories that go off on wild stuff. Just like when they find that architecture that they like, there's no reason why this city or this civilization should have been here at this time from all these years ago. Like that's the stuff that interests me. Like how, like because it gets erased, right? It gets burned. It gets civilizations get conquered, and so on and so forth. So it's like that whole side of it, like the architecture of it, is really fascinating to me because that's really sometimes all that's left, right?
Well, and my biggest axe to grind with academia, especially in the history department, right? Historians and the like, researchers, whatever, is they always default to assuming that ancient peoples were stupid. Mm-hmm. And it infuriates me, man. And I don't think it's like a discrimination thing because they do it to all cultures. You know, I'm a Roman Empire.
across the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a Roman Empire junkie, and they even assumed that Romans were stupid. And it's like look at the legacy that left behind that we can still. I mean, the Roman Catholic Church, right? All these languages. I mean, I've seen
Plumbing,
Roman
right?
settlements. Yeah, but I've personally seen Roman settlements and stood in the ruins of Roman settlements in France, UK, Wales, Hungary, like Germany, like all these different countries, right? Spain, and it's just like, how could we assume that people like that are stupid? So when it is the question is like, look at this isn't supposed to be here, we don't understand it. It's like, well, it's probably because we're assuming that those people are idiots. You know, like who are we to say that this shouldn't be here? Because it's highly possible that they had some type of knowledge or understanding of the world around them at the time. Climates are not the same, as they were back then. The way that we interact with nature is totally different now. Like, who are we to say that shouldn't be there? And I really wish historians would start giving the benefit of the doubt. I noticed that. Sorry, I'm taking up so much time.
No, you're good.
I noticed that when they talk about globalism in the ancient world, they just say like, well, it's not, it's rarely brought up of Roman interactions with, with like different, not even ethnic groups, but racial groups, right? Like there's not many times where people say like, hey, this Asian dude was here, right? And so I think they just assumed that like, oh yeah, there just must not have been Asians. It's like, well, maybe it just wasn't notable, like
That wasn't
maybe
a thing they took account of.
Yeah, maybe in their worldview, they didn't have like the mindset of like they see an Asian guy or a guy from sub-Saharan Africa, and it's like, it's like they didn't get a stimulus. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, what's he doing here? Like that's weird. And hopefully that starts to change. When I was in England, they discovered so it was like a mass grave of like 20 something people that were based on morphology as people from China. And it was in Roman Britain. So it was like in Roman Britain, there was Chinese construction workers like helping to build stuff. And it's like, we totally need to rethink this. So I'm actually always someone, even though I studied history, I'm like constantly pushing against historians and like the established academia in that field. Because I don't know. I think they're full of themselves and they like to sniff their own farts and they think that they know everything. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Be humble.
That's how I feel about everything.
I'm with you.
That is a good way of looking at it, right? Like, because we think we're looking at it through the lens that we look at the world now.
Yeah.
So we think when Asian people were there, we're like, oh, they probably had to do a census for them and see where they lived and all that stuff. Like, no, they were just people who were there and then they didn't factor in all those different things. That's dope.
Do you have your next trip planned?
So the wife and I got married during COVID. I've been married for about a year now, a little over.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats.
How much did it suck?
It has its ups and downs. It's always you're walking a thin line between I can't imagine myself without this person and like
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, we know. Yeah, we all in it. We all in it.
So originally we dated for 3 years, and so we had a honeymoon planned that was supposed to be to Italy and Croatia. It was going to be my Italy trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the money saved up. So it got postponed. I don't know if we'll do Italy and Croatia first or if we'll do the UK again. It'll be my third time to the UK. I just love it.
So her first time?
Yeah, her first time. She's never been to Europe. She's been all over South America and Central America, but she's never been to the UK or been to Europe. So we'll see what trip we do next, but Italy and Croatia is kind of the big one that's been tabled so far.
Is she big on trips like you?
Yeah. So she's an Air Force brat. So the longest I think she averaged like just over 9 months of living in the same spot growing up. And
Nice.
when she was young, she lived in Korea. She doesn't really remember that. When she was like 11, they moved to Brazil, and then she's lived all around the States. So, and then just from she lived in Bolivia as a religious missionary, and then through school she did like wildlife ecology and management, and so she's lived in Chile and in Belize for school stuff, research.
Have you ever been to South America?
I haven't. I've been to Mexico is the furthest south I've been.
Okay.
So, yeah. She wants
You
to
can
take
skip
me
all
really
of
bad.
Central America. It doesn't really matter.
Hey, watch yourself, sir. Well, hey,
Wow.
hey, man.
Wow.
He had to do that. Just because your country used to own mine, don't mean nothing, brother. All right. No. Look, like John was saying, like I eventually do want to retire outside of the country as well, just because the stretching of my retirement and stuff like that. And eventually, I just want to go back home. Like that's where I want to basically die and be buried at. You know what I mean? That's like I love this country and everything it's given me 100 ways. That's why I served it. But like there's just something about just being back home. Like it's just different. Like more like half of my family's there, but like for a long time that's all the traveling I knew.
Yeah.
Would your wife be okay moving to Panama?
Yeah, no, we've openly talked about it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
She just said
Because
she's got
I know
she's got
really
a fresh.
close to her family.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we're obviously talking later down the road, right? Like we're not saying like next week we're getting ready to retire, but like it's a flight to Fort Lauderdale or a flight to Miami. It's a 2-hour flight, So and right now it's a 4-hour drive. So
you're 4 hours away
it's the
from
same.
here, but you never come down here.
Yeah, because you're there. Like I see you here. Like that's it. What else? What else? You know what I mean? We're good here.
All right.
I know. Look, man, you could just
Hey,
say.
but really,
you could just say.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Going back home? Going back home.
Never
What is
did.
this? Going back home? You left Panama when you were 5, dude. Home is Miami to you.
I,
Like you're not Panamanian. You're
I'll
American.
never go back to Miami. I'll never go back to Miami.
Let's be real.
I
You're
will-
American.
I will
You
go
love your
back to Miami
Panamanian roots, but you're American.
That's my roots. That's my
Just
blood.
like me.
Yeah.
Like I left Venezuela when I was 6 years old, and I'm proud to be Venezuelan and Colombian. I'm mixed, but I'm American. I grew up in the States.
Ben,
I'm 38 years old.
Ben,
I've been in the
I
U.S.
will-
for
I
30
don't-
Don't
I am not saying-
let
man.
John ruin your dream. John's just mad
I'm
that
not.
he can't go back to Venezuela.
Well, I can't go back, but so that's why I got
That's
Colombia.
So don't
though.
let him
It's okay.
don't let him kill your dream. He's just mad.
He's
Hey,
just
but,
mad.
hey,
I
look,
know he-
I'm glad you mentioned the Air Force thing about your wife, because obviously my wife and I being in the military or prior military, traveling all over is what kind of sparked that the bug for traveling, right? For wanting to go, because every 3 years we're moving somewhere else, whether it was overseas or even all over the States. That just kind of, and look, I maybe I was a little too harsh when I say you travel 9 hours and you see the same stuff. I mean, there's a difference between being in South Carolina and Washington State and in New York, but it's not.
Well, you said the
as
Midwest.
stark of
You
a
said we could
difference.
just do without the Midwest, is what you said.
Yeah, let's get rid of like 15 states. That's we could do without 15 of them for sure. I mean,
that's all he's
80% of the 80% of the
them.
population lives along the coast anyway, within like 500 miles of the coast. So I think we got about 15 people living in the Midwest.
All you coastal guys make me sick. You guys think the world revolves around the coast?
There is a complete and utter arrogance with the coast. Like for some reason, the ocean is what gives us this inflamed ego. It's so ridiculous.
It smells, dude. When you're by the coast, it always smells like dead fish. It's gross. Okay, come out and get some fresh mountain air, and then tell me that the coast is better.
So what do? You guys go to like lakes to hang out when you guys want to get in the water?
No. I mean, reservoirs.
Creek?
Like people go boating on reservoirs, because like the canyons almost always have a river running through it, or a creek, or a whatever. And so the bigger ones typically get dammed, and then they build reservoirs behind it. So like boating was huge out here, and it's because there's 5 reservoirs within an hour drive where you can go boating or whatever, right? Wakeboarding, tubing, like that is really popular here in the summer. Like Utah is, like the northern half is all mountains and pine trees and cold weather and snow, The southern half is what you would have seen in Moab, John, where it's like all red rock and desert
Yep.
and just blistering heat in the summer. So Utah's kind of cool because it's split in half. It's like totally two different biomes. And Salt Lake is in the north where it's all mountains and snow and whatever.
Right.
So like I mentioned a city called St. George. It's an hour and a half out of Vegas. Interstate 15, I-15 goes from Los Angeles up through Salt Lake, through Vegas, and then through Salt Lake, right? So St. George is like a tiny little town right on the Utah-Arizona border. It's just off the interstate, and but it's like red-orange rock, really. And it's in that desert biome, so the weather is similar to Las Vegas, and only a 4-hour drive from Salt Lake. So my wife and I go down there probably 3 times every winter just because it's 30 degrees hotter and just change it up, I get tired of the cold. I get tired of the overcast in the winter and just the monotony of, not seeing the sun and probably vitamin D deficiency,
There's like gloomy. It's just like it's always
Yeah,
it's like Europe. It's like England.
Yeah, I get the seasonal downies is what I call it, but I mean it's actually called what seasonal affectory disorder. Yeah,
seasonal affect. Yeah.
I
don't suffer for it, but I don't suffer from it, but I take vitamin D because Cleveland gets like 160 days of sun a year.
Nice.
Which is terrible.
Yeah,
it's not nice. It's the opposite of nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's
nice for
Jordan. He's like,
that's nice for Jordan.
Wow.
That's nice for Jordan. Yeah.
I actually think we get more sun than that out here, but like I just can't handle the cold, like the cold every day. I'm not wired for it. And so I got to go down to St. George as like my little haven, it's my little slice of the desert.
You should come down here. We just had our winter lasted like 3 days.
Yeah. No, I'm actually coming down to Miami February 18th. So in like 2 weeks.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're doing a photo shoot for About the Fans. Gonna make it official. I'm hitting up a Canes basketball game. So
is it gonna be the first time you come down here?
Yeah, first time in South Florida.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I've been to Orlando. I've
yeah, me too.
A lot of my backpacking through Europe was in Epcot. So I've done Disney World like 5 times. So
You planning on coming down for a Canes football game this year?
We'll see about this year.
Okay.
I'm hoping so, but like my wife and I are just starting out. Bought our first town home, just got married. So if the finances work out, it'll be a thing. But hopefully in the future, it's not an issue for me. It's just like I'm picking what game I'm going to every year.
Right.
Yeah.
But for now, we really wanted to get this. I'm considering it a business trip. What I'm doing in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We really wanted to get that.
It is a business trip.
Yeah,
that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so I just felt like that was a little more priority than seeing a Canes game this season. But hopefully they both work out.
Yeah. Hey, John, before we let Jordan get up out of here, man, let's pull up this About the Fans and give them some. Look at this. So, Danny, if you hadn't checked out the website yet, look at all the stuff they create on this.
Look, hey, but there's a ton of Miami stuff. I like this Miami runs on Duncan.
Yeah, I love that design, dude. So I lucked out because the guy that runs it, we used to be called Stickers by AB. So AB is my guy. He's become one of my closest friends over the last 2 years. And dude is brilliant. All of these designs are original designs by him. And he's kind of cemented himself as like all of the Canes podcasters and stuff like that. Everyone in our sphere. Well, a lot of the people in our sphere, they get their logos from him, right? Brilliant dude. Like he called me up one day and was like, "Hey, I need a partner." It's like, "I'm not looking for your money. I just want your time." So he gave me a killer deal to get in on it, and we are excited about where it's headed. So
I like that 305.
I'm lucky,
flag
man.
there.
I'm really lucky because I've always been attached to people who are a lot smarter and more talented than I am. First with Marsh with Fours Up, and now AB with About the Fans. So I consider myself pretty lucky.
Hey, I like that Reed Vilma 01.
Yeah.
That looks fire. If you scroll
Yeah.
down, John, I think it's like the last one on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Not no nation we could do without, but shout out to them.
Hey, stop it.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you go to page 1, you might be able to see our Super Miami shirt. I think it's sorted by. Oh wait, it's alphabetical, huh? Oh well. But yeah, we started. It's mostly stickers, but then we do some T-shirts here and there, and
Oh, I see that mustache.
jerks.
Yep, we're excited about it, man. We're excited about it, and hopefully we can get a few. We have a few Clemson things, a few Alabama things, a few Florida things, and but we're hoping to really bolster and diversify our catalog, make it just a little more friendly to other fans. So, Daniel, I probably will hit you up and ask you about some ideas for New York stuff because
let me know.
There's plenty of you guys, plenty of New York fans.
Yeah,
Yeah,
many
pretty
people that
much.
just choose to be depressed.
Yeah, right.
Mark in Europe, yes. Sports-wise, horrible, but the fans are as loyal as they come.
My last question for you, then I got a dip. Daniel, what do you think would be worse? Being someone in my shoes, okay, Bills, Canes, Jazz, where I am always left at the altar of success, okay? Like the Jazz are good every year just so that they can poop their pants when it matters most, right? And tear my heart out sometimes more than once in a given playoff series. Is that like what is worse, to be a fan of the Jets where there's no hope ever? Or
I'm just accurate. He's right. He's right.
I'm messing with you, but you get what I'm saying.
You're accurate. That's accurate assessment.
Is it worse to be an almost or a never has been? Like what's worse? Because it's like
just Jets. We're talking about just Jets because
any of your teams.
I'm a Nets fan. I'm a Nets fan, and I still have a little hope with them.
Okay.
Although it's abysmal right now, I still have a little hope.
Yeah.
I'm a Yankee fan. That's okay.
Because that's the thing. Like all my teams are fairly good, but it's like all my teams.
I'm gonna tell you why I think for you it's worse, and this is just honest. I think the bigger markets get a lot of big name players just off of being a big name market. I feel like with you. You have to hope that you get a Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
That you just land a Ruby Gobert because there's a good chance that no free agent's gonna sign with you. Like no big name. Like nobody wants to move to Salt Lake City when they can move to Los Angeles.
Yeah. And
it's talking about these athletes. Right.
It's not just that, because you're spot on, but you don't just hope to land a Donovan Mitchell. You then have to keep a Donovan Mitchell, which is the hard part. That's the hard part.
Because I think he's gonna eventually be a Knick. I honestly think that he's eventually going to Madison Square Garden.
Honestly, if you want,
and then he'll never smell the playoffs.
If you want my take, I hope I wake up tomorrow and see the Jazz have traded him for Jaylen Brown. I really like. I'm over Donovan. I know he's going to leave.
Really,
he's going to leave in 2 years.
Absolutely. No, he's going to leave for sure. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. He's leaving, but I wouldn't want to trade him right now.
If the Jazz, the Jazz are a flawed team. I think we need more defense on the perimeter. I'm a huge Gobert stan. I'm a huge Gobert stan. Like I think he's one of the 15 best players in the league. But the Jazz
fake decoy?
Fake. After this year, he's gonna have 4, man. It's gonna be tied for most all time.
And then he's gonna be exposed in the playoffs again. But all right.
We can do another hour. We can do another hour.
That's a whole other show. That's a whole other show on the
Jazz. That's what you just said.
I take Jared Allen over Gobert, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, you're wrong. I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you guys a hard time.
Yeah.
Okay, but so anyways, like I think the Jazz have a better chance if because Donovan Mitchell doesn't even try on defense, and he's kind of getting
to the NBA now.
Yeah, but he's getting to this prima donna phase where it's like so he does everything he does on offense, and he doesn't think that he has to try on defense, because he's like, but look what I'm doing over here.
Right. That's what people say. Yeah.
Like his body language when the Jazz have these massive defensive failures on the perimeter, his body language is throwing his arms around, looking at his teammates like Royce O'Neal and Mike Conley and Bojan Bogdanovic, like, why aren't you guys sticking with your man when really he's not either? And it's like, I just don't want to deal with that. Our championship window, if it even exists anymore, was
in the bubble. It was in the bubble, I think.
Yeah, and I think we have the tiniest of chances left, but it's not going to happen if we have so many players that can't even try on defense. And unfortunately, Bojan Bogdanovic has no trade value. Mike Conley has very little trade value. Royce O'Neal has very little trade value.
I know it's not going to happen because it's not even out there. But
Yeah.
if you could, would you trade Donovan Mitchell for Ben Simmons?
I don't think he's the right fit because I would worry that we wouldn't have enough offense at that point because the Jazz have one of the best offenses, right?
Yeah. But that's that perimeter defense that you're talking about. You bring him over with Seth Curry.
It could work for sure. I mean, I'd be intrigued by it, but that's a thing that's a measure that I would do once Donovan made it known that he wasn't going to be here, right? Like a guy like Jaylen Brown, where he can score 24 points, but then still plays high-level defense.
Yeah,
that's something I'd do right now because it's like I think Donovan Mitchell's a little bit better of a player, but I think the team would overall be better with Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, but Jaylen Brown isn't even Boston.
What was that?
I think Jaylen Brown's on the market.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean,
I think everybody's on the market for the right price.
Yeah, you're probably right, but you get what I'm saying. There was a guy like Jaylen Brown, a two-way guy, a two-way guy that can score 20 a game. I think I'd be willing to trade Donovan Mitchell for that right now. But
back to your original question, I would take my situation over yours just because if I luck out with a roster like yours, I know I might get a superstar to come join. I feel like in your situation, you kind of just have to hope that the roster you kind of just make it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sucks about all professional sports. I feel I feel bad for a lot of the middle America teams because you guys just got to figure it out on your own. Because not a lot of big names are coming over. Like look at Giannis, he did it on his own technically, but nobody's going to like. You would figure that somebody wants to go team up with him because that would be one hell of a super team. But I've never heard anybody wanted to go and play Milwaukee. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. So I actually agree with you. I think it's worse to like be able to start to taste the victory and then have it ripped away from you.
Yeah, it is worse.
You weren't old enough for Malone and Stockton, right?
I was young. Like I was old enough to attend one of the playoff games between the Rockets and Jazz in '96, I believe. Western Conference Finals or second round or something. So old enough to go, not old enough to like, it's not like I can recall regular season games from those years. I can from like the 2001 team where Stockton and Malone were still there, but like they were too old to be contenders. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, guys. Jonathan, you got anything else? I know you got to loosen up that onesie so you get up out of here.
God, you really do hate sweaters, don't you? It's not my fault. It's not my fault that your mother doesn't love you because she had to buy you new shirts and new sweaters.
I have to get stretchy because of the size of my head. Yes,
with that big ass head.
Everything ends up looking like an S curl,
and you can't pull it off, and that's what it is.
Not that sweater. I don't want to put it on. I don't want to put it on. I don't want to put it on. I don't want to pull it off. Jordan, don't lie to him. We don't do that here. Dan, you got anything else, man? And next time, please don't have a double Danny on the show, bro.
I'm gonna have
the third one. What is this guy doing? Why do you have cutouts of yourself?
Because he loves
himself. I was a season ticket holder into Miami that first inaugural season.
Cool.
But the pandemic hit. So what they did is they gave all season ticket holders a cutout that we put in the stadium while they were playing empty stadium games. So these were up in the stadium. And when the season was over, they let us have it. So I got me and my two kids on there.
Nice.
But for next time, I'm going to have one on this side now.
Triple Danny. Triple threat.
There you go.
All right, man. Hey,
I'll
Jordan,
make sure I have something.
Jordan, thank you so much for getting on the show, man.
Of course.
Had a great conversation. Definitely learned a lot about your history takes. It was definitely entertaining, man. So thank you so much, man. And look, open invitation. Whenever you want to come back on, talk about anything, man, you're more than welcome on the show, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Love chopping it up with you guys. So I'll probably take you up on that more than you're expecting. So
We're ready,
I just like chat with you guys. I like chatting with you
Yeah.
guys. So you'll see me.
Look forward to it, man.
Yep,
All right,
thanks.
guys.
All right.
Catch you
Appreciate
guys next time. Peace.
it. Bye.